Right in the middle, a part of London known as Docklands. Now just through the bridge and to our left is our next stop, which is St Catherine's Pier for the Tower of London, Tower Bridge. Now I know there's quite a few people with tickets for the Circular Cruise, St Catherine's, Tower Bridge Quay, Tower of London. Now this is your stop, but please do remain in your seats until we are safely alongside the pier. This is for your own safety. If you are leaving us here, make sure you've got your personal belongings with you. Mind a step in the gap between the boat and the pier as you leave us. If you are going to Greenwich, just stay in your seats, bear with us just for a few minutes. We'll be very quick at this stop and then we carry on down to Greenwich. So if you're going to Greenwich, just remain seated. Now if you are leaving us here at St Catherine's, I did mention, I'm sure you've guessed, we're not professional tour guides on the boats, we're crew members. In an effort to make your journey a little bit more interesting, hopefully enjoyable, we point the places and items of interest out to you on a completely voluntary basis. If you found a few words I've had to say of some use and you are leaving us here at St Catherine's and you would like to show some appreciation for my efforts as your tour guide, you can do so as you leave the boat. By the exit will be the old ship's champagne ice bucket, a little silver tip bucket. Of course you're under no obligation to put anything in the bucket, just for what you feel my few words have been worth. Now of course if you are going to Greenwich there are some more places to point out and I will continue with the commentary when we leave. This is St Catherine's for the Tower. And his child thieves, and it's also where Bill Sykes fell to his death after killing poor old Nancy. About halfway up the dock there it bends round to the left. This is a part of London known as Jacob's Island, and this is where Charles Dickens actually lived whilst he wrote the novel Oliver. They do say he based many of the characters in his book around people that he actually met there whilst he lived there at Jacob's Island. Coming up here to our right hand side you'll see another one of these large construction sites. You can see the machines there loading the barges, and this is another one of the Thames Tideway tunnel sites. It's at this point they actually drop the drilling machines into a large hole here where they bore out the tunnel, and as you can see the spoil comes out and is loaded into the barges. So if you remember the site way back at Blackfriars, there's another one here, there's a few more as we make our way downriver. That'll give you an idea of how large this project actually is. Coming up here to our left hand side you can see the large warehouse called Oliver's Wharf. Oliver's Wharf was the first one of the old Victorian warehouses to be converted into luxury riverside apartments. That was back in the early 1970s. Now very shortly as we get level with Oliver's Wharf, standing along, now it's here that he would have the pirates and the smugglers hung in such a way that 3 high tides could rise up over their bodies. And this was a form of execution known throughout the world as the Grace of Wapping. The last pirate to suffer the Grace of Wapping was Captain William Kidd in 1701. The futuristic looking blue and white building on the jetty there to our left looks a bit like a nightclub or a casino. This is Morocco Wharf and it's an engineer's workshop. This is where they repair all the River Thames police boats. You'll see the Thames Division of the Metropolitan Police based at the next pier along there. Thames Division are the oldest organised police force anywhere in the world. They were formed approximately 30 years before the land side of the Metropolitan Police, originally formed by 2 Scotsmen, Patrick Calhoun and John Harriott. And just behind the police pier you can see a small pub. It's not a very famous or historical pub, but the name above it is the Captain Kidd, named after that famous old pirate. Coming up here to our right hand side, above the trees and warehouses, you can see this church spire. This is St Mary's Church of Rotherhithe, south east London. Buried in a crypt here at St Mary's, a man by the name of Christopher Jones. Christopher Jones was the captain and the part owner of a small pilgrim ship called the Mayflower. In 1620, the Mayflower set sail from this point on the Thames. It sailed round to Plymouth on this country's southwest coast, where it then picked up all the pilgrim fathers and took them round to America to start their new lives. Now just after the warehouse there on the right with a little red gantry sticking out, you'll see a small black and white painted pub, and it's named the Mayflower after the old ship. As we get level with the Mayflower pub, have a look at the weather vane on the roof. It's an exact scaled down replica of the Mayflower ship, and also inside that pub you can find a copy of the ship's original manifest. The Mayflower ship actually ended up ending its days here at Rotherhithe. It was broken up at this point by local Rotherhithe shipwrights, and a large amount of the timber was reclaimed from the ship and used to make some of the furniture in the St Mary's Church. So some of the seating and things in the church is all made from the original timbers of the Mayflower ship. And it's actually the oldest registered pub to stand alongside the River Thames. It dates back to 1537. The Prospect of Whitby was very famous in its time for the pirates and the smugglers that used to drink in there, and it's inside that pub that they caught that famous pirate Captain William Kidd. They also caught a man in this pub by the name of Colonel Thomas Blood. Colonel Blood was the man who successfully stole the crown jewels in the reign of King Charles II. And they had a child together, a son that they called Thomas, and he later became Thomas Jefferson, the 3rd President of the United States of America. Now coming up here to the right hand side, as we go around a bend here, follow the embankment wall around, you'll see this sandy coloured warehouse with a red crane hanging on the side of it. It's called Globe Wharf, and it used to deal with the import of rice into this country. It was the largest rice mill in the south of England. Closed down in the early 1980s and converted into luxury riverside apartments. If you look to the top there, you'll see the name of the building, Globe Wharf. You see that word wharf up there? You've probably seen this a lot already as we've worked our way down the Thames. Does anyone know what it means? I know you do. Well, it's an acronym, WHARF, Warehouse at Riverfront. That's where the word wharf comes from, Warehouse at Riverfront. And if you look down the river in front of us now, dominating the skyline there, you can see all the tall office buildings that all form part of the Canary Wharf development. This development was started here in the 1980s by 2 Canadian brothers, the Reichman brothers. They owned a company called Olympia and York. Now they built the original tower here at Canary Wharf, which is the one there with the pointed roof and a flashing light on the top. The Canada Tower stands at number 1 Canada Square. It was the tallest building in England. It stands 850 feet tall, but as you can see, some of the towers here are taller, and of course the Shard that I pointed out back at London Bridge. Canary Wharf has become the financial part of London. All the large banks have got their head offices here. You can see HSBC and Citigroup. There's also Barclays, Lloyds, Credit Suisse. They're all down here at Canary Wharf. I'm afraid I cannot deny you that privilege. Now in a few moments time, I will pass round amongst you all with the old captain's champagne ice bucket, the little silver tip bucket. And this is for any appreciation you might like to show. Of course you're under no obligation whatsoever to put anything in the bucket. It's entirely up to you, just for what you feel my few words as your tour guide have been worth. All that leaves me to say, folks, is thank you very much for your very kind attention. You have been a marvellous audience. Me and my colleagues sincerely love each and every one of you from the bottom of our hearts. It's been emotional. God save the Queen. Thank you. Appreciations for the commentary, folks. Office Estate Prison, and most famously a place of execution. Coming up here to the left, you'll see the large warship, London's very own warship, HMS Belfast. The Belfast has been permanently moored at this point since 1972. She was built in 1938 and commissioned for service in 39.
What's that building? You're all getting down here? This is Ferris wheel, and what is this?
Come on! Come on!